The next talk we have is by Anand, or as we popularly call him, Anand C.
Oops. Okay. Okay. Hey, I'm going to talk about some of the tools we have built to deploy machine learning applications very easily. So my name is Anand. I work with a startup called rorolite. We're trying to build a data science platform. Some parts of it I'm going to show you now. So the problem is when we started deploying ML apps was really hard. So if we actually looked at the problem, what we realized was it's not just deploying ML models, but deploying any Python function as an API is pretty hard. So what we did is we wrote a tool called Firefly to solve that thing. So if you look at exposing any Python function as an API, there are so many things that you need to do. You need to write some web application and then write a RESTful API, make sure that data is validated. And then once the API is ready to use that, you probably end up writing a client library. So what Firefly does is, all they do is write a function that you want. Let's say you have a square function. And then start the server with Firefly and then module name dot function name. That starts running a server. And you can create a client and then say client.square, call the same function with passing arguments. That gets the results back. So you don't really have to do anything else other than writing your code and then start running it. Now behind the scenes, it's a RESTful API. It sends a post request with the parameters and then gets the response back. As long as your function is working with JSON-friendly data types, that works fine. Now, a more practical example, you want to have deploy a machine learning model, you can load the model first and then write a predict function that takes the features that you want to as input and then predict it and then return the response back. And then when you want to call it, start server and then create the client and then call predict with all the features that you want to call. Now, it's an open source tool. You can actually go and use it. Now, what it does is it starts a server on your computer, okay? But you want to share it with other people, that's not sufficient. So how do you deploy it in the cloud? So we built a heroku-like platform to do that. So it's available on rorolite.com. So what you do is you write a roro.yml file with specifying the project name, what runtime to use. That basically says you need to have Python 3 with scikit or Python 3 with TensorFlow. And then specify the services that you want to run. That basically is what's the name and then what function that you want to run. So it's a predict.predict, the module name.function name, the two services that you want to run. Wow. Okay. And you just run deploy. That deploys the entire project to the cloud and gives you two URL endpoints where you can actually use it. Hello. Now, it also allows you to run different jobs by specifying what type of CPU instance you want. You can say that you need to run it on a 64 core instance or a GPU, etc. Now, so that's nice. You can actually, without worrying about infrastructure, you can run things on the cloud. But it actually runs on my own. It runs on our cloud. It's a PaaS platform where you get your code to our platform and run it. Okay. For a lot of people, that's not true because they want to run on their own servers. So how to deploy things on your own server? So what we have is we have this a light version of a platform called rorolite, which allows you to deploy the same interface to deploy things on your own server. So what you can do is, just like what you've done with the roro.yml, you can write a rorolite.yml file, specify what host name and the IP and the username that you want to use, and then specify the name of the service and what function to use, etc. And then first time when you run it, you say rorolite provision. So that what it does is it goes to the server, installs all the required dependencies, installs Anaconda, and then installs a bunch of things for the first time. And for next time onwards, you just have to say rorolite deploy. It takes your code, puts it there, and then starts all the services, and then gives you URL endpoints where you can actually use them. If you notice in the YAML file, you have specified the port number where you want to expose the service. So just have to make your code changes and say rorolite deploy. That goes to your server, deploys everything, and then you have these two endpoints that you can start using. Let me if you want to look at the logs of any of them, you can say rorolite logs and then say what's the service name. It will show all the logs of that. let me summarize. We have these three tools. One is Firefly, which is you can deploy function as service. It's open source. We have a rorolite platform, which is a cloud platform, which is a PaaS platform. And we have rorolite. It's a light version of the platform, which is again open source that you can deploy your applications on your own server. Thank you.